Hi guys, good afternoon and welcome back once again to the EdWord. I'm your host Eddie, and in today's video I will be discussing what I thought of the latest and super great episode that we got in the form of the season 2 finale for The Walking Dead: Dead City. It dropped its season finale today on AMC and AMC Plus. I finished watching it not that long ago. Oh my goodness, what an episode it was. And I'm so intrigued about the ending and what stories it could possibly tell later down the line. So before I get into all of that, of course, please be warned, this is a spoiler-filled review. So if you're not caught up on The Walking Dead: Dead City by the most recent episode, which is episode 8 of season 2, the season 2 finale, you don't want to keep watching or listening, as I will be discussing spoilers, plot details, character stuff, all that jazz. That being said, you have been warned. Let's dive right back into it. First and foremost, what an exciting, dramatic episode this was. So it solved a couple of things while leaving a lot open for the future. You know, it brought the inevitable betrayal of Bruegel and his people against Negan and the Croats people to a head, with the elaborate trap set by Negan and the Croats people entrapping Bruegel and his people in the church with that brilliant Walker table trap, and then setting fire to the pews and circling them in fire while surrounded by walkers. Brilliant. And then Maggie's reunited with Herschel, only to have Dama thrown into the mix. Dama is such a manipulative, gaslighting bitch, and I am hating her so much. I hope she dies either next season or wherever they take this story, because she sadly is one of the few characters who survived by the end of this episode, and who knows what lies in store for her. But she's pretty much lost her kingdom, her people. The Croat is in the wind. We didn't see him at all this episode. He didn't appear once. Got mentioned once or twice, but we didn't see him at all, so who knows where the hell he is. And all his people are pretty much gone, it feels like, because Maggie killed a couple of them when she went down there to confront Negan, but the rest of them, I think, were killed by Bruegel's people in the church. So there was no one left to defend New York, to stop the second wave of the New Babylon expedition team or invasion force from entering their land, the city. So now New Babylon has basically taken over this territory, leaving Armstrong, Negan, and Maggie kind of sitting around wondering, what the hell do we do next? Where do we go from here? And I like that they ended it like that, because now it forces all three of them to do something that they haven't really done before, which is now going to be working together. At least that's what the ending implies, is that somehow, some way, the three of them, especially Maggie and Negan of all people, will come together for the common goal of just survival, or staying alive, or maybe fighting back against New Babylon. I don't know. I think Armstrong's loyalties now lies to his friends more than it does New Babylon, so maybe he'll be willing to take the fight to New Babylon. I don't know. But what I thought was really cool about this episode is we got to see some old shades of old Negan again, with the whole eeny, meeny, miny, mo thing, although you could tell it was triggering and upsetting the hell out of Maggie, who was hiding around the corner there, probably giving her some serious PTSD flashbacks of the night Glenn was murdered, which fueled her fire even more to try to kill him. And I believe she would have put him down for good if it hadn't been for what happened to Ginny. You know, unfortunately, we get this heartbreaking reveal that Ginny did not survive her wounds, and she actually succumbed to them and thus became a walker, clearly devastating Negan and upsetting Maggie and probably Armstrong. And then Maggie goes as far to give Negan a blade so he can be the one to put Ginny down. And I think, personally, the reason why Maggie doesn't kill off Negan or finishes him off is that up until that point, you know, after she stabs him, she picks up Lucille, which is poetic and ironic in so many ways. And she has every right to bring that baseball bat down upon his head and beat him to a pulp. It would rather be poetic justice. She stops because I think she feels bad for Negan because of what happened to Ginny. And she's reminded of the fact that this guy is a flawed human being like she is, like we all are, and maybe doesn't deserve to die today. So I think that's what stayed her hand, because they don't really explain what stopped her from killing Negan. Although when she goes back, and Herschel is clearly upset that she didn't kill Negan, ever expanding the rift in their relationship. I feel like Maggie feels like there's got to be a way to move past the past and the trauma that Negan's inflicted upon both of them without Negan having to die. But that's not good enough for Herschel, but that's because he's been gaslit and manipulated by the Dama this whole time, who wants Negan dead for her own reasons, because he didn't become the leader or the tyrant she wanted him to be for her people. And now all her people are gone. Her methane operation now falling in the hands of New Babylon. Wasn't surprised, but still a little sad to see such a great villain played by the wonderfully talented Kim Coates die. I wasn't surprised at all that Bruegel bought it in this episode, but he did have a great death scene where not only Negan filled him up with methane, but then he set him ablaze and then brought Lucille down upon him, bashing his brains in, only to put him out of his misery. I was sad to see Ginny go. Ginny, was an innocent who was very determined to kill or hurt Negan for her own personal, understandable reasons, but unfortunately her path was already chosen for her in terms of the wound, succumbing to her wound and then becoming a walker. But her death may have served a purpose in preventing Negan's execution for now and bringing to a temporary truce between Negan, Maggie, and Armstrong, as they figure out where do they go from here, what the hell do they do now? Because they certainly left the door open for a lot more story to be told. Herschel's still out there with the Dama. The Croat is in the wind. Bruegel is dead. Both Bruegel's people and the Croat's people are all gone as well too. So now New Babylon came in with no resistance and easily took over the methane operation. So what happens now? Where do we go from here? So the show hasn't been renewed for a third season yet. It very well could be. However, there is another possibility to consider. We may not know what lies in store for these characters until way later down the line, after the conclusion of the third and most recent season of Daryl Dixon premieres. Here's what I mean. We very well could have a Walking Dead crossover in the works where our characters who have been apart for so many years, for so long, finally reconverge, reconnect, and more importantly, reunite with each other at some point. Whether it's through a crossover special or on the Daryl show or on Dead City, who knows? But, Rick and Michonne are back in Virginia, back at the Commonwealth. Daryl and Carol are still overseas in Europe. They have to get back home to the Commonwealth. Morgan is still out there on his way to the Commonwealth, to Virginia. And Maggie and Negan are still in New York. So what I'm saying is that the new season, the third new season of Daryl Dixon premieres later this fall. And by the end of that season, perhaps we'll have some answers or insight or clarity as to where both the Daryl show and the Dead City show will cross paths, or if they converge at all with each other, because maybe they're not announcing a third season just yet because they have other plans in store. It's just a theory I have. However, the show easily could be renewed and announced for a third season in the not too distant future, and we simply don't have that confirmation yet, but it's only a matter of time. So who knows? But it's just a possibility that I've considered, but only time will tell. But in the meantime, I enjoyed the season finale very much. I'm sorry we lost a few characters, but I'm also pretty happy with the story that they did tell. And I like the way it ended, leaving the door open for more story and more exciting possibilities for all of these surviving characters who are still left, and what the future may hold in store for potential crossovers or a third season of Dead City. Who knows? But part of the fun is not knowing and waiting. So We'll see what happens. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode review here on the EdWord. I hope you enjoyed the season finale as much as I did. What were your thoughts? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Were you expecting more, expecting less? Let me know what you think down below in the comments section. Have a wonderful rest of your day. The Walking Dead Dead City Season 2 is now streaming in its entirety on AMC Plus. Have a great rest of your night and your weekend, everybody. And of course, until next time, may the Force be with you.